Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Osea Wynn, Administrator of Neighborhood and Community Affairs. We're standing at Memorial Park Cemetery to update the community on what the city has been doing to protect historic burial grounds like this. Tackling forgotten, abandoned, and vulnerable cemeteries that are so common across the country is complicated. And Mayor Castor has asked a team to establish a task force to look holistically at the issue. I have been leading the task force. We have made a lot of progress in the issue of forgotten or vulnerable burial sites revealed by Paul Guzzo and the Tampa Bay Times. This place reflects that. More than a century ago, Memorial Park was established as a burial place for African American veterans of World War. And many soldiers who died in France were laid to rest here. The city of Tampa has invested considerable time, manpower, and money to protect and improve Memorial Park since the death of the property owner over 2 years ago. That includes taking over the maintenance, trimming the tree canopy, replacing a dilapidated fence, and much more. City of Tampa staff likewise helped the Zion Preservation and Maintenance Society recently become a nonprofit entity. The city contributed $50,000 towards a memorial, completed a work plan to receive state funding, and applied for multiple grants. We have been attending the Zion Society meetings since its inception 2 years ago, as well as meetings with the Housing Authority, the NAACP, and community leaders about Zion, Memorial Park Cemetery, College Hill, and Showman's Rest. So far, the city council members have changed the land use category of all city-owned cemeteries to park lands and open space. And the 9th, Jackson Heights, is in the works. We are also working with members of the City Council and the Planning Commission to create a new land use policy for cemeteries. At this point, at this time, I would like to introduce our Planning Director, Stephen Benson, to discuss this matter a little further. Stephen, will you please join me?
Thank you, Osea. I'm the City Planning Director for the City of Tampa, and what our approach is going to be that the Mayor has proposed in coordination with the task force and the Planning Commission of Hillsborough County is to take a look at our comprehensive plan and make changes to it. Our city's comprehensive plan is the roadmap for the future. It's our long-range plan, and it currently does not address cemeteries the way that it should, or really to any extent. And so the Mayor has tasked us to take that gap in policy and focus on 3 things. Focus on proposing changes to address the lack of land use designation that Ms. Wynn just mentioned. We're also going to be proposing to add a list and designations of all the cemeteries that we currently know about, not just the city-owned cemeteries, but also the privately owned cemeteries as well. And then the last thing is to propose policies that will address what to do about all 3 of those situations in the future moving forward, and provide those protections so that as things progress going forward, that there are protections in place to address privately owned, city-owned, and also future cemeteries that perhaps have yet to be discovered. Those policies are needed to provide those protections automatically so that when that occurs, the steps can be put in place to address them in the manner in which they deserve with the utmost respect. We do encourage any private owners of cemeteries to please reach out to us, and we can work with you to make sure that that land is designated appropriately and has those protections in the future moving forward for generations. And with that, I'm happy to pass it back to Osea and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And finally, I'm sure you would like to hear from our mayor, Mayor Castor.
Thank you, Osea. You know, as you hear me say on many occasions, that one of the most wonderful attributes of our city is our diversity. The city of Tampa is really defined by our diversity. And as we also know, this Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Day, that we celebrate really around the world and certainly here in our community. And one of my favorite quotes from Dr. King is that the time is always right to do what is right. And so when we were made aware of the lost cemetery in Zion, we put a focus group together. We brought a number of individuals together to work on these issues of lost cemeteries and abandoned cemeteries as well. I want to give some thanks to Paul Guzzo for all that he has done to bring attention and shine light on this issue of the lost cemeteries. We are in a cemetery right now, Memorial, that, as Osea Wynn appropriately pointed out, is the resting place for a lot of local heroes, individuals who fought in world wars and other individuals who dedicated their lives to serving our country. And this particular cemetery was abandoned, and so the city took it over, ensured that it is kept in a manner that reflects that respect that we have for everyone who is buried here. Now, the steps that we are taking are not going to right past wrongs, but what they are going to do is ensure that we do not have lost or abandoned cemeteries in the future. This problem will not occur from this point forward. And this has been a heavy lift. And as a community, as is our history, we come together when there are significant issues that need to be addressed. And this one is no different. So in addition to Mr. Guzzo and the Times coverage, I'd also like to thank Senator Janet Cruz and Representative Fentress Driscoll for bringing this issue to the state level, and also look at our local representatives from Hillsborough County, from the school board, the Housing Authority, MacDill Air Force Base, USF, everybody that came together to define the scope of this issue and to devise a strategy for moving forward, how to ensure that we respect those members of our community that are in their final resting place, and then to take those steps into the future to ensure that none of these issues occur again. We also here at the Memorial Cemetery are excited to bring our youth into the process of upkeeping this memorial cemetery, because then they will be able to learn about the history, the lives of the individuals that are resting here, and that history and those legacies will live on forever. So we are excited about the progress that we have made, but we certainly have not arrived at our destination quite yet. But I do want to thank everyone for working with us. I want to thank the City Council. I want to thank Councilman Luis Vieira for all that he does for our community as well. And Councilman Vieira, before we open it up for questions, if you'd like to make some comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mayor. I wanted to thank you for your leadership on this issue, such an important moral issue. And I also wanted to again recognize Paul Guzzo, the great things that journalism can do. I think about Rosewood 101 years ago that was found by a reporter from the St. Petersburg Times, something that's so critical. But I always say that a community, whenever it comes to past wrongs, it's incumbent upon communities to make wrongs right in our own time. It's incumbent upon communities to repair the breach and to build bridges. And that's certainly something that we're doing here on what is truly sacred and holy ground. You know, you go back at the front of Memorial Cemetery and you're going to see a lot of World War I veterans, some of whom were killed in action, African Americans fighting in 1917 and 1918 during the height of Jim Crow, the height of racial terror here in the South. These great Americans served a country that wouldn't stand for them. And they exhibited what I call aspirational patriotism, the idea that they believe in this country's best values that will be applied to them, and they give love to a country that didn't always return it. That's something that we honor here today. So again, thank you so much to everybody, especially to Mayor Castor for your leadership on this issue. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Are we opening it up for questions? Go ahead, Paul.
Our research has shown that the past administrations undeniably played a direct role in erasing Zion and College Hill. They passed neighborhood improvement taxes on the cemeteries. When the owners didn't pay, they reverted the ownership to white owners. They then excused those taxes on the white owners, and then, in the case of Zion, approved development on them in the same year. The NAACP has asked that the city issue a formal apology on behalf of the past administrations. Will the city apologize?
As I stated before, we can't right past wrongs, but certainly we can acknowledge those and apologize for the wrongs of our community in the past. Any other questions? Yes. Well, I'll give you the brief answer to that and then bring up the professional. In essence, what it will do, it will prevent any of these cemeteries from being forgotten, or the zoning, the land use changes to cemeteries moving forward. But I think Stephen can give a more professional answer.
Thank you. Just briefly, you don't hear about land use changes very often because they're not done lightly. You hear more about rezonings, but the land use is the umbrella above the zoning, so it's actually more important. It's a higher standard. So what we're proposing is to, regardless of the zoning, add protections on top of the land so that in the future the development rights or the ability to develop doesn't come into question again. It does take at least several months to go through the whole process. There's at times a state review that's required to amend the comprehensive plan, but we will work in partnership with the Planning Commission as well as Tampa City Council to make sure that it's done as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. And I appreciate the question. Unfortunately, I believe this is a matter that may be quasi-judicial. Therefore, I can't comment on the actual substance of the hearing going before us. I can speak on behalf of myself, setting aside the woodlawn issue, which again, a determination before City Council, but that we always have to value and protect life. We have to value and protect life in all of its stages, including those who came before us who maybe weren't respected in our time. But that's separate. Unfortunately, as it relates to that issue, I can't comment publicly on something that's quasi-judicial, but I would urge you to attend the hearing for comments on that. Yes, sir. I don't have the date of the hearing, but in fact, if you want, speak to me afterwards. I can get you the date and then come. But I believe that's quasi-judicial on the portion of the rezoning, so I can't comment. Otherwise, I may be precluded from voting on it ethically. So, thank you. Yes, sir.